A first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, this evening, our top stories. Donald Trump has defended his son's meeting with a Russian lawyer during the presidential election campaign, insisting most people would have taken the meeting. The US president is in Paris for the Bastille Day celebrations. Back here, the government has published its European Union withdrawal bill, intended to transplant UK law into British, or EU law into British, rather. And the parents of baby Charlie Gard today walked out of the latest hearing to determine their son's fate following a disagreement with the judge. Well, hello there, watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. In the next half hour, then, we'll see what's making the headlines with the political journalist Isabel Oakeshott and the Observer's chief leader writer Sonia Sodha. Welcome, lovely to see you both. Front pages, as ever, let's take a look, shall we? Opposition to Theresa May's repeal bill leads the eye. The Times also reports on the leaders in Scotland and Wales joining forces to block the Brexit legislation. So too does The Guardian, as it forecasts what it's calling an explosive constitutional clash. The Metro is leading on England footballer Rio Ferdinand losing his mother to cancer. Lifting restrictions on state-owned companies is among measures being considered to attract the world's largest oil producer to the London Stock Exchange. That's in the Financial Times. Telegraph then. The OBR warns in the Telegraph that Britain's economic security is being put at risk by taxes on the wealthy. A study in the Express claims statins are doing heart disease patients more harm than good. The Daily Mail reports that heart attack victims will have to wait longer for an ambulance under an overhaul to the 999 service. The Daily Mirror leads with its campaign for an opt-out organ donor scheme, reporting a vote is set for Parliament. The Sun reports on the £50,000 legal aid bill for IRA suspect John Downey, which has been slammed by the families of bombing victims. And the Daily Star, wait for it, yes, it leads tonight on Love Island. I've only seen one episode, so I can't really comment. Isabel Oakeshott, Sonia Sodha are here, and you want to start on Charlie Gard. Once again, we're back in court, aren't we?
Yes, that's right. So the latest stories are about the latest developments in the really tragic case of Charlie Gard. So the baby who's terminally ill, the doctors in his care think it's in his best interest to withdraw care. His parents are obviously, like any parent would be, looking for any sort of hope that he might be able to recover from this terminal illness. And the latest development is a US doctor, he has to remain unnamed, has given evidence to the High Court from the US saying there may be a hope, there may be a 10% chance here. Now, you've got to feel for the parents, because what parents wouldn't grasp at that? But then at the same time, we also hear the doctor hasn't seen Charlie Gard's medical records, he hasn't, so you've just
He hasn't read the latest legal judgment and so on.
You've just got to wonder how up on the case, should he be saying this to the parents when he doesn't know the ins and outs of the case? And it's sort of almost symbolic of, I think, how this case has become, just feels like a media circus with people piling in. And it just feels so wrong, because at the heart of this is a very tragic story of a boy who's terminally ill and his parents who are desperately, looking for any hope that he might be able to survive.
So are we now, at least at the stage with public support, that he should just be allowed to go and what will be, will be?
I mean, in a way, public support is irrelevant in this case, and I think the judge has been quite clear on that, and I think that's right. I mean, my reading of this is the judge has actually been exceptionally sensitive. The parents understandably have been extremely emotional in court. They have, had various emotional outbursts during the hearing, which in other cases would have got them chucked out of court, frankly. And the judge has been extremely tolerant of that. I think that's great that he has been and recognised what they're going through.
But even today, they walked out of court. There was a dispute, wasn't there, about measuring Charlie's
and the
skull.
Judge, and the judge acknowledged that that was they were entitled to walk out, and if they couldn't sort of handle sitting there, that was understandable. I think this case is so difficult, isn't it? And one thing that I find a little bit hard to get my head around is this idea of what's in the child. It's in the child's best interest to die, because in a way, how can that ever be in anyone's best interest? Unless it comes down to how much suffering is happening, and it's very hard to accept that it's in anyone's best interest to die, because that's it. It's there's nothing more than that. So it's an agonising case, and I feel sorry that it's been dragged out so long. But that is what the parents have fought for.
There are questions about medical technology here, of course, aren't there? That we can keep people alive when there is no prognosis of a completely fulsome life. That's the sort of where do we go from that?
And that applies to all sorts of cases, not just this one. I mean,
And
there are
economic
lots,
dilemmas as well.
absolutely.
lots of people in a sort of persistent or permanent vegetative state who are nonetheless on life support machines for all sorts of reasons, you know, because there's a glimmer of hope somewhere. And every time there's a case where someone does make some miraculous recovery, that obviously fuels the case for giving everybody else that chance.
Okay, where do you stand on this then now, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's just so incredibly difficult, aren't you? Because we're not in the courtroom, we're not hearing all the evidence, so it's very difficult for us as outsiders to pronounce, I think. And that's the reason why we have a legal system with judges making these rulings. And my inclination would be to go with what the judge, you know, we have the system there for a reason. But it is
So you mean
very...
what the doctors say?
Yes, yeah, but it is very, very difficult.
Or whatever the judge now decides.
Yeah,
this time,
or whatever the judge's reading is. But it is very, very difficult because you cannot watch these parents and what they're going through without feeling their pain and completely understanding why. If you've got a doctor saying to you, your son's got a 10% chance of surviving if he comes to the US and has a treatment. Well, if I was a parent or the parent of Charlie Gard, of course I'd be fighting tooth and nail for that. So it's just one of these cases that I think is very difficult to pronounce on, actually, as an outsider.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, certainly. Let's move on to the front of the Telegraph, up the top there, back to politics, in fact, back to tax. And the squeezing the rich harms the economy. We heard this at some point, didn't we, when George Osborne was Chancellor? So what's this latest
So this is new analysis. It's the Office of Budget Responsibility. So they're widely respected and seen as independent. And of course, there are two sides to this story. And Sonia and I are going to disagree on this one. The Telegraph have naturally taken the side of...
Do you want to see the figures? Because it's quite small, isn't it? We just zoom in very quickly so you can read it. Sorry, yeah.
So what the Telegraph is saying, the spin that they've put on this story, is that it's a higher proportion, slight rise in the tax burden on the top 1% of earners, and they're saying that this is actually what the report says is that this is unhealthy for the economy.
So it's gone from the top 1% paying 24.4% of our tax take to 27.7%
so
of the
nearly
tax
28%. I mean, that is a huge amount, and you would have thought Sonia would agree with it, but apparently she doesn't. So
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think you can see that the OBR have got a point, and what the case that I would make is that I don't necessarily want to see, you know, the wealthiest, the top 1%, paying less tax, but I do think there are questions to be asked about the income tax cuts, can't speak anymore, that the Conservative governments have delivered since 2010. Hugely expensive increases in the personal allowance, for example. Now, they themselves have delivered gains to more affluent families disproportionately. And I think it's actually one policy that I really liked in the Liberal Democrat manifesto going into the election, which was to say, we need to broaden our income tax base. Everyone should be paying a bit more. We're going to put a penny on income tax to pay for the NHS. I think the OBR's got a point. We do need to have a really honest conversation.
Why does changing the minimum tax threshold actually benefit richer families then?
Because people with very low earnings aren't paying tax, so the more you increase
But that's a good thing, surely.
Well, it's a good thing they're not paying tax in the first place, but then they don't benefit from any further increases. So if you're earning 9k a year, say, and the personal allowance is going up from 10k to 11k, that delivers you no benefits whatsoever. And actually, some of the benefits, the IFS have looked at this and looked at
people who
the
earn
resolution.
12k do benefit, so not everybody will benefit with every tax change.
No, but the Resolution Foundation looked at the latest increases to the personal allowance and which households they went to, and they found 80% of the benefit went to households in the top half of the income distribution.
Because somebody else in the family earned more.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because you've got lots of two-earner households.
Okay, right.
She is actually quite an expert in this. I have gone uncharacteristically quiet. Sonia is well on top of the figures here.
But the point the OBR is making, presumably, is this leads to an unbalanced economy. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it isn't healthy, fundamentally, in my view, to have an over-reliance on a very small sector of the population. And if you absolutely hammer them and make a political point of hammering higher earners, what happens is they're not able to employ so many people, and it has a knock-on effect. So there is a point at which, if you keep on increasing the tax burden on wealth generators and enterprise and opportunity makers, then you actually end up adversely affecting the kind of people that Sonia wants to have.
I mean, I think we're a long way off that. In fact, I think we've got a tax system where very big global companies like Facebook, Amazon, Starbucks find it very
individuals
easy
we're talking about here.
That's true, but you also see a lot of avoidance by the very wealthiest individuals, you know, in our current system. But I don't think it's a case, like, I think there was a good case for the very wealthiest to pay more, but I do take the point that you can't rely only on the very wealthiest to fund your state, because, as the OBR say, it does leave you vulnerable if there's a shock or if people move away. And I think they've got a point about making sure you've got a broad tax base as well as a very fair tax
Sonia,
base.
do you remember when it was the 50p rate and it didn't actually generate anything else, any extra revenue? So it doesn't actually work ultimately.
I think no, but I think that was to do with the fact that it came at the same time as changes in the economy. So it wasn't just a sort of let's keep everything constant and see what happens when you put in a 50p rate of tax.
Don't think there's any evidence for that, but anyway, well weaseled out.
We can continue it in the green room as well.
In the meantime, the UK's public finances would fail the stress tests that were introduced for the banking sector during the financial crisis.
So this is the FT's take on the same report by the OBR. So the Telegraph zeroed straight in on the, we're hitting the rich. I think the FT's got...
It's a slightly story, isn't it? This thing, which isn't exactly going to be setting a header alight in pubs up and down the country. This is
depressing. I mean, this is the full take on the OBR report, and it's very depressing. So the OBR have pointed to the fact that there are all these...
full takes on I'm not sure
that we're really unproductive, and if we get less productive because of Brexit, we're going to take a hamburger.
Yeah, I mean, you should be working for the OBR, Anna.
You should be. The sound of things.
And very quickly, cash versus Visa in the Telegraph, which... Oh, no, that's not Telegraph.
We know the story.
There we go. Visa bribing shops to stop them taking cash.
Bribing is a bit of a loaded word
strong,
here,
isn't
so
it?
we might move away from the bribery angle and just say that Visa appears to have been incentivising, according to this story,
in an anti-competitive manner, I would say, because essentially businesses have to pay to use Visa's system, and Visa's basically saying, here, we'll give you some cash to switch entirely onto this, and then what's going to happen once they've sort of squeezed out cash? And you've got Age UK, the director of Age UK, making a really important point in this story, which is that, it's all very well for sort of a younger generation who've got, contactless on their phones, etc. But some people, some older people really rely on cash. And so this does feel to me like an anti-competitive practice.
Yes, and has Visa put a defence up? I can't see from this article.
Yeah, we're focused on putting... hang on a minute.
On putting cash out of business.
Yeah, not much of a defence there, is it?
We're focused on
owning
cash out
up.
of business. OK, so we don't have their defence, let's put it that way. Still to come here on Sky News. Shall I show you the picture or not? I can't decide. No. Yes, OK, I will, yes, OK. At the time of their lives, a dirty dancing wedding fail. As you can see, not so good. Back in a moment. Oh, dear.